All right, welcome everyone. Let's kick off our deep dive, shall we? Today, we're tackling Peronist leadership, going way deeper than just the surface stuff.
Definitely deeper.
Right. Like you guys wanted to really understand the WHY, not just the what. And you provided an awesome source for this, these lectures Peron gave back in '52.
Yeah, they're pretty fascinating, especially because he was speaking to future Peronist leaders, almost like a masterclass in politics from the man himself.
It's like we're getting a sneak peek behind the scenes of this whole movement.
Exactly.
Oh, and get this, he even compares political leadership to art at one point. Brings up figures like Napoleon, too. Like, whoa, are we about to unpack a dictator's playbook here?
Huh? Well, it's certainly a unique look into how Peron thought. Goes way beyond the usual propaganda.
Okay, so let's jump in. What did Peron have to say about leadership, and how did he actually put these ideas into action?
So one of the first things he really hammers home is doctrine, having a unifying doctrine.
Not like dogma, though, right?
Right, not rigid rules. He actually criticizes earlier Argentine political parties for, lacking that strong core, thought they were always infighting, no stability.
Yeah, makes sense.
So for Peron, it was about a doctrine that's more like a compass, guiding you, but not a strict map.
I like that distinction. It's like, it's like a company mission statement. You get the overall direction, but don't dictate every tiny decision.
Exactly. Lets leaders adapt, but without losing sight of the core values.
And for Peron, that core was like social justice, national sovereignty, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Which, thinking about it, Peron spent, what was it, like 2 years building support before making any big moves. Like, he really believed in taking his time to persuade people.
Oh, absolutely. He knew lasting change takes time. And building a movement, it requires more than just, fancy speeches. It needs real connection with the people.
And Peron was.
Yeah.
He was a master at tailoring his message. Like, he could talk to workers, then turn around and address intellectuals or military leaders, all while sounding totally convincing.
He was good at that.
It's almost like he was a political chameleon, changing his style to connect with whoever he was talking to.
Yeah. That ability to adapt, to connect on a personal level, it was crucial to his success. It's like, think about the most persuasive people you know, right? Chances are they're really good at tailoring their communication to whoever they're talking to, making it resonate.
So we've got this foundation, shared doctrine, real knack for persuasion. But what did he actually consider, like the defining qualities of a Peronist leader?
Well, interestingly, he draws a sharp contrast between military and political leadership.
Okay.
For him, military leaders, they command, give orders, but political leaders, they have to persuade, educate. They need to inspire genuine buy-in.
Never thought of it like that.
Yeah, he even compares a political leader to an orchestra conductor guiding the musicians,
Right.
or even a teacher shaping young minds.
Whoa, that's different.
Instead of just giving orders, the leader's actually creating harmony, understanding.
Makes you think, like, the difference between a boss who just yells commands versus one who actually inspires you to follow him.
Right. And this ties into another key idea for Peron, ubiquity. He was big on that.
Ubiquity.
Yeah, basically being present among the people, comfortable everywhere, truly in touch with their concerns. He even described his own experience when he first took charge at the Secretariat of Labor. Spent months just listening before doing anything.
Huh. Surprising, given his reputation.
He really believed that to represent the people, you gotta know them, understand their struggles, their language.
Makes you wonder about leaders today, like all these focus groups, the social media stuff.
Yeah.
Is that really understanding the public or just trying to win elections?
It's hard to say sometimes, right? Peron's ubiquity idea, it really makes you question if modern leaders are truly in touch or just projecting an image.
Yeah, it makes you think, what makes a leader seem genuine, connected? Their policies, their background, or just their ability to talk about everyday stuff?
It's a good question. It's something for you, the listener, to think about, really. What qualities make you believe a leader is truly in touch with the people they represent? Peron was, he was a pretty strategic thinker, too. Like, he even applied military principles to politics. Economy of force, that was a big one for him. Basically focusing your efforts where they'll have the most impact, even if it means, accepting some setbacks in other areas.
Yeah, he gave that example, right? Winning the key provinces, the ones with a lot of people, mattered more than trying to get every little town on board.
Exactly. Resources are limited, right? So he thought, why spread yourself thin trying to please everyone? Better to understand where to put your energy for, well, for maximum impact.
Makes sense. Like in business, you want to invest where you'll see the biggest returns, right?
Exactly. And I mean, we see that today too, right? Like in political campaigns with all the targeted advertising and stuff, the focus on swing states.
Huh, interesting. So we've got connecting with the people, strategic thinking. But Peron wasn't just about winning elections. He wanted to create lasting change, right? He kept going on about continuity of effort, this long-term vision for Argentina.
Oh, yeah, he'd go on and on about those who jump from one idea to the next, always changing course, no real impact, he'd say.
Like trying to build a house in a day, changing the blueprints every hour.
Right. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You need dedication, gotta stick with it, even when things get tough.
Which, that brings up a good question. Was this long-term vision genuine? Or was it more about, consolidating his own power?
Tough to say, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt Peron was a skilled leader, but his methods, his motives, there's still debate there.
Yeah, and he, straight up laid out some of his tactics, even the ones that, well, maybe weren't so ethical, like that whole hair stew analogy.
Yeah. To make hair stew, the first thing you need is the hair. Basically saying you need people to lead before you can, actually lead them.
But he didn't just leave it at that. He actually went into the nitty-gritty of how he attracted those followers. Like, he knew everyone was tired of empty promises from politicians.
Yeah.
So he just flipped the script, promised nothing, then surprised them by actually delivering. Pretty bold move.
It worked, though, didn't it? Speaks to his understanding of, well, how disillusioned people were with the whole system. They were tired of being let down.
So he's like, all right, I am the guy who gets things done.
Exactly. Man of action. And he knew how to play the game, too, appealing to emotions, even offering, material benefits.
Which, that brings up a question we still struggle with, right? Do the ends justify the means? Can we admire what a leader accomplished, even if, how they got there was kind of shady?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Something to think about, really. How do we balance a leader's accomplishments against their methods? No easy answers there.
And it makes you think about how we judge leaders today. Are we more forgiving of the ones who get good results? Even if, even if their past wasn't totally ethical?
It's a slippery slope. But it's worth talking about, especially with figures like Peron. I mean, he was operating in a very different political world.
Totally different. Okay, so Peron built this massive following, right? He understood what people needed, what they wanted, but then he also stressed this idea of maintaining control. General and permanent dominance, he called it.
Yeah, and he was very specific about that. Like, he distinguished between popularity, which fades, and prestige. True leadership came from prestige, being seen as someone who deserves to be followed, not just someone people like.
That makes sense. If you're building a movement, you want more than just a moment in the spotlight. You want staying power.
Exactly. And this general and permanent dominance, Peron argued, it wasn't about crushing dissent or anything. It was about stability, creating the right environment for his vision to succeed.
But, did it actually work that way? That's another debate, right?
Definitely. It's worth asking whether he achieved that. And it's interesting how he connected this idea of control with knowing men, understanding human nature.
Right, picking the right people, keeping everyone motivated, building a solid team.
It comes up a lot, right? Successful leaders, they really get the people they lead. But Peron's approach, it went even further. He talked about rewards, punishments, keeping everyone in line.
Yeah, that's where we see, the authoritarian side coming out again. Got to weed out the threats, can't show weakness.
Definitely. And it makes you wonder, can a system based on that, on control, really last?
It's a good question. And not just for Peron's Argentina. It applies anywhere power's concentrated in a few hands. Like we see it all the time, right? Movements built on fear and control, eventually, they fall apart. So how did Peron try to build something lasting, something that could outlive him, even with all that?
It's wild to think about, right? Like, here's Peron, this powerful leader, and he's already thinking about what happens after he's gone.
Yeah, like he was really trying to create a system that could run on its own, to empower his followers, to keep his vision alive, even without him.
Exactly. It wasn't just about Peron the man, it was about Peronism the movement, something bigger than himself.
But how did he, actually do that? Was it just like speeches and big promises? Or did he have a more concrete plan?
Oh, he was strategic about it. He knew you needed strong institutions to make a movement last. starting with the Peronist Party itself. Like, he really emphasized the importance of clear organization, roles, responsibilities, that kind of thing.
And don't forget the education part, right? Making sure everyone in the movement really understood Peronist ideology, what it stood for.
Right, like this was a big difference from those earlier parties, the ones Peron criticized for being all over the place. This was about creating unity, everyone on the same page, working towards Peron's vision.
So it wasn't enough to just get followers. He had to turn them into, like, true believers, people who would carry the torch even after he was gone.
Exactly. And that meant having capable leaders at all levels, not just at the top. He talked a lot about training, developing those future leaders, giving them the skills they needed, but also making sure they were ideologically committed.
He even created, what was it, the Superior Peronist School, specifically to train the next generation of leaders.
Yeah, it's almost like he was building a political army, right? A clear hierarchy, shared doctrine, a whole pool of talent ready to step up.
That's a pretty intense image. But even with all this focus on structure and control, Peron never forgot about connecting with everyday people.
Of course not. That's where his ubiquity idea comes in again. Even leaders at the top, they got to stay connected to the people they represent.
Be visible, be present, listen to concerns, show that you understand what people are going through.
Exactly. And he stressed simple communication too. No fancy jargon, just talking to people in a way they could understand and relate to.
So it was this mix, right? Control and connection, organization, and empathy. Kind of surprising when you think about how Peron's usually seen, the strong man, the authoritarian.
Yeah, but it shows that even the most powerful leaders, they can't just rule by force. To build something that lasts, you need some level of genuine support. People got to believe you're working for them.
Which brings us back to Peron's legacy, right? He built this massive movement, but did it last? Did Peronism actually become that self-sustaining system, the one that could govern Argentina even without him?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, Peronism is still a huge force in Argentine politics, no doubt, but it's also changed a lot over the years. Whether it's achieved what Peron envisioned, that's still up for debate.
And it's a debate we want you, the listener, to join in on. As you learn more about Peronism, think about what parts of Peron's ideology are still around today. Has it been a positive force in Argentina or something else? It's something to consider, for sure. Well, that was intense. We went deep on Peron's playbook, that's for sure. From doctrine to building a movement, training leaders.
Yeah, he was a fascinating guy. Complicated, controversial, but definitely a master at building and wielding power.
What stuck with you from all this? Anything that surprised you? Anything that makes you think about leadership differently? Keep those questions in mind as you learn more about Peron and his impact on Argentina. It's a story that's still unfolding. And with that, we're wrapping up our deep dive. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing, and remember, knowledge is power, but understanding is mastery.